Welcome to Discovery. I better.
You should keep that.
Okay.
Keep it raw.
Let's keep it raw. Nick Roth.
You don't have to. It's your podcast. You can do what you want.
I honestly. Well, it's funny because the people listening to this are probably like your friends and people, and they're like, they haven't heard me say welcome to Discover Indie Film 1,000 times, but there are actually people who listen to the podcast. It always blows me away when like we go a couple weeks without one, and then people send an email and like, where's there another podcast? And I'm like, oh my God.
Yeah.
I thought no one's listening.
I listen to a lot of podcasts now. I didn't used to, but right now because I teach 3 days a week. I teach film at Cal State Northridge, and I don't live near Cal State Northridge. I spend a lot of time in the car, and there is nothing better to do than listen to podcasts.
I agree. And we won't talk about other podcasts because I have to introduce you and say that this is a 4 questions podcast, which means Nick, and I'm going to say who Nick is in a minute, but first I'm going to say he's about to answer 4 questions, which are name 3 favorite films, name an underrated film, name an overrated film, and name a lesser-known film that people should seek out. But the reason he is here and talking to me is his film, Hanky Panky, which you should watch ASAP. Just go to any streaming service or, Tubi, Avon, whatever, and search for Hanky Panky and watch it. But at Film Invasion Los Angeles in 2024, it won Best Feature Film Comedy and Best Performance by Cast. So watch that film. If you go to the podcast before this one, you'll get to hear a nice long interview all about how that film came together, how Nick got into screenwriting and directing, and how maybe someday you'll know Nick and Lindsay as a power couple, Hollywood power couple, but the power couple you like, not the one that you resent and hope fail.
I mean, honestly, if we get to a place where anybody resents us and hopes we fail, I'll be like, great. That means we've made it.
That would be cool. Yeah, to have haters.
Right now, nobody is hoping that we fail.
To have haters means you have game.
Yeah, exactly.
All right. Feel free to hate someday, but not yet. And
just try to hate us. We're so likable.
Yeah, that's true. That's
a challenge. I dare you to hate Nick and Lindsay, Hollywood power couple.
And go to indiechannel.tv or download the app Indie Channel on a smart TV or your phone, and check out the shorts Coming To and Nano Blood on there during your free trial if you want, because that's all Nick's work. So anyway, I think we did our introduction. You want to talk? You want to talk favorites?
Let's talk favorites. Okay, I'm gonna start. Should I do it? Should I say all 3, or should we do one at a time? How do you like it?
Name all 3. Go for it. Because we talked too long during the interview, so this could have been an hour talk about films. I know because Nick and I kind of both have what do you call it? The gift of gab.
Yeah, I definitely do.
Yeah, so we could talk about these films probably for too long. So we're gonna make ourselves brief because we have a hard out soon.
2 not surprising, 1 maybe surprising. Ready for it? Citizen Kane, Casablanca, Mary Poppins.
Nice.
Which I suspect is the one you didn't see coming.
Didn't see it coming. I've seen it though. Okay. I went 50-something. No, I didn't see it until we showed it to our kid. Mm-hmm. I actually had never seen Mary Poppins. My wife was like, "You never saw Mary Poppins?" And I was like, I never saw Dumbo either. It does.
Mary Poppins holds up, I think, better than any of the other Disney movies from that era, and better than any of the other musicals from that era. I love it. It is a wonderful movie to show your children, but also it is weirdly... How much am I supposed to talk about Mary Poppins right now?
You can... Well, the fact is, if someone listening to this needs to hear about Citizen Kane and Casablanca and just doesn't acknowledge that they are cinematic perfection and earn their place in history, talk about Mary Poppins, because that's what people don't talk about.
Here's what people don't talk about with Mary Poppins. Mary Poppins, movie from 1963 in America, set in London of 1910.
Pre-World War I.
It's Edwardian London. But it's really a movie about America in the 60s, on the eve of the Civil Rights Movement and the anti-Vietnam War movement, and the winds are a-changin', right? That is what the whole sort of film is sort of set up about, is it's this generational conflict between this new rising sort of countercultural movement of the 1960s versus this much more sort of conservative patriarchy, right? It's great to be an Englishman in 1910. It's the King Edward's on the throne. It's the age of men is what the dad sings at the beginning, right? But it's not about Edwardian London. It's about America in the 60s. And then the whole film after that is about how do you deal with your boomer parents and their backwards ass ideas, but also remain a family and convince the dad to show up and spend some fucking time with his kids and go fly a kite, which is where the movie goes. Because he just wants to go to the fucking bank. But the movie, his arc, and he's the only character in the movie who has an arc, is George Banks, not Mary Poppins, not the kids. He's got an arc. He's got to learn that fuck the bank fucking sucks, banking blows. He's got to go and fly a kite in the park with his fucking children. And how do you make that happen? And it's not by yelling at him or canceling him on Twitter. It's this very interesting sort of set of dynamics that Mary Poppins herself, as well as Dick Van Dyke's Bert character, used to sort of manipulate and incept him into being a better person, and sort of how to navigate that space with, like, make him think that things were his ideas. And so I think the film is kind of an instruction and manifesto in how to, like, handle your family bullshit and your family dinner with your, like, boomer parents who don't understand. And what a fucking valuable and amazing thing that a Disney movie from the 1960s could be doing to hold. I mean, this is right after Walt Disney was, like, giving names to the House Un-American Activities Committee, selling out.
He may not have known.
I don't think so, right? But, like, it's so unlikely that this movie should be, I think, as forward-thinking and prescient as it is. But I think it really is. Right, and also just, like, the mom, I think her name is Winifred Banks, so good, but also such a loving portrayal of Karenism, right? She comes in with her introductory song is about, she's, a suffragette, right? They've picked a very non-offensive political thing, which is women's right to vote, right?
Sort of still.
I mean, crazily, yes. But, like, theoretically, even in 1963, everyone's okay with women voting. Hopefully. But she comes in and the song is well done because she's congratulating herself. And she's doing this kind of performative, progressive political work while she's all, our daughters will adore us and they'll sing in grateful chorus, well done. Those are the lyrics to that, right? So it's all about how she's doing feminism to feel good about herself while she's, like, putting sashes on her servants, right? Like, this is a political dialogue that is, like, exists now on social media amongst the left, but Disney was nailing it 60 years ago, right? Like, so that's, I think, if that's not reason to go and watch a movie and also feel like, wow, I can sing Supercalifragilistic and perform that with my 3-year-old daughter, like, I don't know what is. So that is my I stan Mary Poppins.
Now you've given me the desire to watch it again with that in mind, because, and by the way, this was the first time it ever occurred to me that that's the year before the Beatles broke in America.
Sure.
Like, counterculture had not arrived, and yet they were dealing with it.
But they're right on a wind is blowing in from the east, and
I always thought it was like a class thing, like I to me I see the class thing of Mary
Sure.
and Dick Van Dyke's character representing, and then the upper crust, the landed aristocracy, where a man feels a father barely needs to see his children; he just has to pay for things. That's not love. Yeah, that's not what you're. Okay, excellent. I love that that's in your list.
Holds up so much better than it has any business holding up.
Absolutely. Excellent. All right, well, question number 2 is a film that is underrated.
I kind of want to make my underrated one the same one as my obscure.
Fair enough.
Honestly, it might be also my overrated one. So maybe it's one film that can answer all 3 questions.
This is so efficient.
This is going to be really efficient, because also I don't want to shit on any other movies.
Well, I have a speech on that, but go.
1985, The Stuff, written and directed by Larry Cohen. Have you seen this movie?
No.
Okay, so definitely hits the obscure quotient for our day. This stuff is a little known comedy, horror, political satire. It's basically a killer yogurt film. It's a movie about maybe sentient white goo that is an addictive substance that people eat, and then it eats your insides. The tagline for the film, which is also a line uttered in the movie, is, "Are you eating it, or is it eating you?" It is a cheesy, absurd fever dream of a film. It is completely crazy. Every scene hangs on the previous scene by a thread. Larry Cohen, who I think he passed away recently, but Larry Cohen was fond of saying that his method of writing scripts, and I absolutely have never found any interest in anything else he's ever made in his entire very prolific career, but except for the stuff, is that he would write these movies by dictating them to his secretary in real time. Meaning, like, it's night, and now here's what happens, and then this happens, and then this happens. You're getting this, and then this happens. Then does not revise. And so the movie has this quality where it feels like, because it is, making itself up as it goes. And things that get set up, we never see them again. And things don't pay off. But it's just moving quickly from one thing to the next. He produced it for Roger Corman, and when he showed the original cut, Corman was like, "You got to cut like a half an hour out of this." And he was like, "Absolutely not." And Corman was like, "Well, you're gonna, so do it." And he did. And so the movie also has this relentless pace. It's way too fast. And you're moving in multiple storylines, and like there's a lot of commercials for the stuff in the movie, and sometimes it just cuts to them in the middle of it. And so now if you watch the stuff on a platform that also has commercials, it's especially crazy because you might be in a commercial for the stuff and in the middle of it cut to a commercial for whatever, a credit card or a dish soap. Here's why it is both the most overrated and underrated movie I can think of. I cannot. Some people say this movie is so bad it's good. Some people say this movie is just genius. Nobody can make up their mind. The small group of us stuffies who appreciate this film. There's not even a group of us. It's just sometimes you run into somebody who's seen this movie and is like, nobody talks about this movie, but this movie is insane. And it cost like a couple $1 million to make in the 80s. Like, it was a movie. It bombed.
But still from the classic era when there were still B movies being made.
Absolutely. This movie comes out of the same year as They Live, right? Like, it is a long...
Well, I'm shaking my head no, because I was in 11th grade in 85, and when They Live came out, I was a junior in college. So that would have been 88?
Maybe. Okay, so it's the same era.
But the same era, for sure.
Same era, and the same...
And intentionally made as a B movie.
Made as a B movie, but it kind of with this very high concept of like aliens, and you put on the glasses or whatever. This is the stuff is you eat the stuff and it eats you from the inside and sort of becomes a cult.
It's like the Blob, but it's inside your body. I'm sure that's what he told
Body
Corman.
Snatchers, I'm sure, right? But it has that, like, it's a satire of consumerism in the 80s and the world of advertising and conspicuous consumption. And it's doing all of that. Here's what makes it so unique, because it's crazy and it's unlike anything else. The cast is fucking incredibly talented actors, and I think like half of them are drunk the whole time, and half of them only get one take, and the thing is shot like Renegade and crazy. So the lead is Michael Moriarty, who I think has either won or been nominated for multiple Tonys. It's Danny Aiello, Paul Sorvino. Like, it's this cast of like talented actors, especially from theater, who should be really good, and in this they're sort of like probably just not even given the opportunity to be good, and like people are slurring their words. Characters are introduced and we never see them again. It has this like feverish quality that makes it feel like nothing quite else, and this is why I, in some weird way, think that there's something about this film that's kind of similar to Casablanca, which is that Casablanca, it's different to watch it now where you can micromanage it and pause it and rewatch scenes and discuss it. Like, I think if it's 1942 and you're watching Casablanca in a theater, that movie is too complicated. There is too much going on. It is layered with too much meaning. You cannot possibly keep up with it. You're constantly trying to figure out in Casablanca, who are those characters and why are they important, or this is just a cameo by these guys and this is not important, and like what is happening, and sort of parsing out a lot of things. That is the experience, I think, of a viewer in Casablanca. And then what happens is the movie just washes over you with its like nostalgic, glamorous vibe of the golden age of Hollywood, and it's just beautiful and wonderful. Something similar happens with The Stuff for very different reasons. It's not the immaculate masterpiece of its construction, but the frenetic craziness of its production that gives you a similar place where you kind of, it just ends up washing over you because you can't possibly be keeping up with what's going on. And I just think it's like fascinating. And I just end up watching it over and over again and trying to get other people to.
I mean, is it following? I mean, we off the mic, we talked about The Room and some other things. I mean, is it almost in that world of like a cult film that
it has never built a cult following,
right? So it doesn't have like the following.
Room.
Yeah,
it doesn't have the cult following.
But in your world, does it fit into that sort of box of? Well, you said it's not just so bad, it's good, but
well, here's what it shares with The Room. When you watch The Room, a lot of the fun mental game of watching The Room is trying to imagine how this got made in the way that it is. Characters are making choices that don't make any sense, and the blocking is crazy, the set design is crazy, the script is bananas, and you're trying to sort of you part of the fun of it is it's so engaging to be trying to imagine what was going through Tommy Wiseau's head that it got to this that's on screen. And The Stuff is the same way, but it's not bad. Like in the way that it's not amateurish in its production. It's not the scene like he's a very accomplished writer. So it's like the dialogue is good, but characters don't know their lines. The scenes are written well, but they're sort of slapdashed into each other in a way that makes it barely hang on to making sense from one scene to the next. So it's got a very unique set of things that provide that weird experience of like the sort of meta gaming of like watching it and trying to imagine how it came together like this. Because in The Room, it's different. It's like the performances are false. The dialogue is amateur.
I mean, The Room is really like the experience of being like, we know he thought it was good.
Yes, it is camp in the sense
of... And then he accepted that it's so bad it's good.
Only after
and
the
he
fact.
Now he pretends it was like intended to be comedy. But we know...
Nobody
he thought he was making Citizen Kane.
Yeah. If Citizen Kane, if it was starring James Dean or whatever was his sort of imagination.
Yeah, we know he thought he was turning himself into an international sex symbol as well.
Yeah. He's such a character in and of himself.
Yeah,
that is not exactly what The Stuff is. And maybe that's, The Stuff doesn't like neatly fall into even any of the sort of like routes that a film can take to be a cult classic. Which is why I feel like it's sort of slipped through the cracks of history and only gets discovered by accident sometimes. But
how did you come across it?
I was when I was in grad school. I decided to teach a class on the year 1985 because I wanted to teach a bunch of novels that all got published that year. And so I was like, I should watch some movies from that year too. And then I just went down a rabbit hole of like, I guess I'll try to watch every movie that came out in 1985. And so like that starts with like a very easy list of Brazil, Cocoon, Back to the Future, like all the big, whatever. But then you start getting into like deeper and deeper into the B-sides and finding some like really cool movies, many of them terrible and unwatchable. Once I was like, after I'd watched the top 100 films from that year or whatever, I found a bunch of like weird things that I was like, what is this? And The Stuff is the one that sort of stands out the most to me, that I sort of discovered by accident and then immediately had to like show all my friends and be like, what do you, and then none of us could really pin it down what we think about it. And so that's why it's sort of most overrated and most underrated, I think, works for it, because it is, nobody can make up their mind if it's good, if it's bad, if it's so bad it's good, if it's like what.
Right,
like,
for you, you're
tell.
tempted to say this thing is actually brilliant, and then you're also tempted to say this thing is actually. Well, you're saying it's underrated and that it's way better than you will think.
Yeah.
But then as soon as you think that, you're thinking, but it's actually not as good as I think.
It's such a unique blend of elements that are good and bad, unlike anything else I've ever seen. So I can literally, I think about it kind of like it has stuff in common with Casablanca and Citizen Kane, but it also has stuff in common with The Room.
I'm going to pretend to be intellectual here and say it's like Schrodinger's movie. It's both good and bad at the same time or something.
Maybe.
You know
I don't
what
think I understand quantum physics enough to know whether that
I
makes
don't
sense.
either. But just the idea that something can be underrated and overrated at the same time is unique to me. Yeah.
The jury is it's small because not a lot of people have seen this movie, but is very much out on what to think about it and how to even talk about whether it's good or bad. And so I find it to be a very fascinating case study for that reason.
I am living in a brief window in between film festival decision making where I don't have to watch submissions, which means I might torture my wife and make her watch this very soon.
It is a true charming. You can't go wrong. It's very enjoyable. Garrett Morris is in it playing Chocolate Chip Charlie, who's like a parody of Famous Amos. I mean, it's incredible. Like the movie, like there are things about this movie that are just flabbergasting and funny and good, and then there's so much about it that is nonsensical and like should be bad, but it's very entertaining.
Excellent. Wow, you just made me nostalgic for 1985 because
yeah,
I was 16 most of that year. I saw Back to the Future at a drive-in in the Valley when the Valley had drive-in movies and shit.
It's the year I was born.
Go figure.
Yeah, but that coincidentally.
Yeah. But that kind of makes it kind of poetic that you dove into the novels of that year. And
well, I just really wanted to teach Cormac McCarthy's Blood Meridian, Don DeLillo's White Noise, and Haruki Murakami's Hard-Boiled Wonderland and The End of the World. And they were all published in the same year. And those were three of my favorite novels when I was in grad school. And I was like, I should teach a class on this year. And that's how I found the stuff.
That's very cool.
I don't think I taught the stuff, though. I think I left that off of the syllabus. Now I teach the stuff in my cult cinema class at Northridge.
Oh, nice.
As my, why is this not a cult film?
By the way, as we wrap up and we got the things done on time, I'm just going to add that it's so cool that you're teaching at Northridge because as a festival runner for a decade, I can say that the stuff that comes to us out of Northridge cannot be snoozed on. The other graduate film programs in the LA area sometimes are a little more hoity-toity or whatever. But the kids making stuff out of Northridge, they're really good.
Yeah.
Better than people. Yeah. I don't want to furiously insult the super prestigious ones.
Well,
but very often their films are just super polished and you can tell the kids just strutting to try to get a big budget someday.
I mean, I think there's probably something to the fact that, certain levels of tuition weed out talent, right?
Yes.
So
1,000%.
So why would you expect good films to come out of the places that have a smaller talent pool to select from?
Especially when that talent pool is selected by privilege.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I mean, yes, but also just fewer people can access that. So you're going to have more people who don't have access to that. You're going to find, I would expect to find more better student work coming out of places like CSUN. That's not a limiting factor.
Where the program is probably more similar to a meritocracy.
Yeah,
hopefully,
and where lots of people who want to make films but can't afford to go to some of the conservatories or whatever.
Yeah. All right, I'll tell you about somebody. Anyway,
sure.
We can wrap this up. There's clickable links in the show notes.
Yay!
For you to see, to check out Nick and his work and watch Hanky Panky and do all that.
I will say this one thing to connect some of these things. Every day we shot Hanky Panky in the morning when we were having coffee and stuff right before we would shoot on in the background. The stuff was almost like a guiding principle. Yes,
that's for some reason that makes me think of Peter Jackson reading the actual novel of the Lord of the Rings. He was reading the novel every morning before shooting the film.
We had two spirit totems on Hanky Panky. One of them was that we would watch the stuff every morning. Excuse me, and the other one was that we had through circuitous means. The slate that we used for Hanky Panky was the slate from another very little known film that also could be on this obscure list, Lust in the Dust, which is a musical western starring Divine also from the early or mid 80s, I think, directed by Paul Bartel, of Eating Raoul fame. So about as obscure as it gets, but sort of, if you can imagine a drag queen on a horse singing in the Old West, that was our slate. So we somewhere imbued in the spirit of Hanky Panky is a little bit of that.
Very cute, cool, and just for shits and giggles, I'm going to say, okay, so now officially, retroactively, Nick's lesser known you should seek out is not the stuff, it's Lust in the Dust.
Yes, that's the most obscure film.
And honestly, everyone should watch everything Divine ever did.
Yeah.
Because why not?
I will say Lust in the Dust is better than Pink Flamingos right off the bat.
For sure. Pink Flamingos is great, but it's just a series of shocking sketches. It's just not even really, the story's not there, but yeah, I love it. It's all good.
I ran into John Waters at Trader Joe's the other day, actually. This is a true story. and I told him, hey, I just screened Pink Flamingos in my cult cinema class. And he was like, it's even worse now.
That's funny.
I love him.
All right. I'm not going to keep talking because you got to get going. All right.
I do. I have to go teach that class.
And okay, Discover Indie Film podcast, like and subscribe. DiscoverIndieFilm.com is the website. At DIF Wins is always the social media handle. Hanky Panky was at Filmvasion Los Angeles. Just learn about that at filminvasionla.com or at filminvasionla on social media. That one's every June, every December. Sherman Oaks Film Festival. ShermanOaksFF.com, at ShermanOaksFF social media. And the Indie Channel. Roku, Amazon Fire TV, Apple TV, Android TV, your phone if you watch movies on your phone, I don't like you. But if you subscribe to the Indie Channel on your phone, maybe you're forgiven. But check that shit out and check out Coming to and Nanoblood on there. And thank you, Nick.
Thank you.
A lot of fun.
I had so much fun.
Of course, having professors on here. I should just only interview professors because people who teach.
Well, we have to get very good at talking out our ass a lot.
Yeah. Well, you were excellent, sir. And thank you, everyone who's listening.